How everybody's doing? Oh, I gotta get used to the mic. Well, before we get started to our subject at hand, I would like to introduce me and my partner. I'm Deputy Charles of Harris County Sheriff's Office. My partner, Deputy Cheatham. We're part of Community Crime-Oriented Policing. We're a new unit with the Harris County Sheriff's Office that started earlier this year. And what we do is we go out to problem areas and we find outside resources to help out, to help the community out, right? So we take in calls that our deputies sometimes don't have time to solve because they're going from call to call. So we have a dedicated time to spend time with a family that's going through some type of trauma or a call, a repeat call, or some type of family violence or domestic violence or stuff like that. So is that better? Okay. So we'll go to the next slide. So what is CPOP? Like I said earlier, Community Crime Oriented Policing Unit. CPOP, we develop resources in the community and we connect them to those that are in need. Specialized units that started earlier in this year, and we do policing to mitigate the crime in an area. So community policing is not a new concept. This is something that's been going on since the 1960s. Earlier, when community first started, remember when cops used to get out and walk around? You remember the old movies? That's when policing was good, right? Because we wasn't in our vehicles, we wasn't on our radios, we were part of the community. The community knew their cop's name, they knew who was in their beat, they knew who they were. So somehow we got away from that. We're in our patrol vehicles. People in the neighborhood don't know who their neighborhood cop is. So community policing, we're trying to get back to that. We're trying to be so that let's say when something happens, we have to do an investigation. We have to solve a crime, right? And how do we do that? We need the community. Community helps us solve crimes. We can't do it by ourselves. So believe it or not, y'all are investigators, y'all are crime solvers as well. So that's why it's so important for us to have that relationship with the community.
Good morning, guys. I'm Deputy Cheatham. I won't be long because I know the next rim is lunch, and I feel like you guys have already been sitting for a long time, so I'm not going to make this material as dry as possible. I have 15 years of law enforcement. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 5 years, going on 6 years. I joined because I am about my community. I'm a part of giving things back. I want to give things back. Even on my off time outside of this uniform, I'm giving things back. I'm mental health certified. That's my first passion. Secondly, I am a part of CERT, but I moved over to the homeless outreach team because they saw it better fit that our veterans with our homeless population needed that connection with mental health issues and neglected mental health and other neglected mental health issues that all of our homeless have. I enjoy my job. I enjoy being with the Harris County Sheriff's Office, and I don't do it for the money, trust me. So I'm gonna introduce my partner, and then we have a special guest who is a subject matter speaker in elderly abuse, because I think that's one of the main topics that we need to address here, and making people aware of what's going on when that phone rings and they're using your sensitive information to try to get into your bank accounts and things like that. Those things are important to us. So we're gonna discuss that, but I'm gonna let Deputy Charles talk about himself, and then we'll move on, and then you guys can get to lunch. And we'll be there eating lunch with you guys, so if you have any questions, we'll entertain those then, but we won't keep you long, promise.
Oh, I'll be brief. I just became a deputy in 2019. I used to work at jail since 2014 in the Harris County Sheriff's Office. But before I joined that, I was doing a lot of events in the community. Like, the community is huge. Where I came from, we didn't like the police. But it was that one cop that was very influenced in my life. So that's why I became one, so I can spread what I learned and get that negativity out there, and also bridge the gap. Educate the community and let the community educate me as well. We'll get out of there. So a lot of times we use the SARA model when we solve, are we doing an investigation, or we into the community. A lot of times our deputies are pressed on time, so They go to a call, they write a report, and they're moving on to the next call. But we have a little dedicated time where we use the Sarah model, where we scan, analyze, and we have a response and assessment. And that's very important because our response is what type of plan of action are we going to have? What can we do to really solve this? How do we get to the root of the problem? Kids might be doing graffiti, they might be tearing up stuff. That's a problem, but what's the root of the problem? Do they have any other options? So we're there to reach out to outside resources, organizations to help these kids have an option, besides going to what they're doing, have a better influence. And our next presenter.
This is Deputy Investigator Deputy Robinson. He works for our Elderly Abuse Unit. He's going to give you a lot of valuable information. It's probably going to go a little quick, but if you have any questions, again, we're free to talk during lunch.
How's everybody doing? Okay, I'm Deputy. I talk kind of loud, so y'all just look over there. Don't judge me by the way I talk. I'm Deputy Robinson. I'm an investigator here with the Harris County Sheriff's Office. I'm attached to the Crimes Against Elderly and Disabled Persons Unit. We're a brand new unit. We just started and it just took off in April. And so we're a brand new unit and we're dedicated to dealing with crimes that are against the elderly who are 65 years of age and our disabled people who are 18 to the age of 64 years old. And so it was a very good reason why we got started. We're the only elder abuse unit within the Harris County, Texas, even Houston, Texas. Houston Police Department doesn't even have a unit yet, so we're the first of its kind. And we're dedicated to deal with elderly people. A little bit about me, been in law enforcement for 14 years. I started with the Harris County Precinct 4 Constable's Office. Also left there and went to Prairie View A&M University Police Department, and I've been at the Harris County Sheriff's Office for since 2017. So recently I am also a pastor of a church, which is down the street off of 59 at Parker Road. I just got appointed to that position in January. So you can move to the next slide. All right, why do we need Crimes Against Elderly and Disabled Unit? And it reads, as the population of seniors grows, so does the epidemic of elder abuse and neglect. The elderly and disabled are some of the most vulnerable and at risk for crimes involving in abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation. The elderly and disabled need to be protected. And a little bit of how we started. Well, there was a call out on the south side of Houston where people were living in deplorable conditions. They had seniors living in unventilated garage with no AC, no heat. They had about 15 people with bunk beds outside of those garages and about 8 people in each room in a 3-bedroom home. No running water, the windows were boarded up, and no working AC. And so the county got together and said, we have no division to address some of these concerns when it comes to our seniors, which was considered a group home. And so because of that incident, it prompted the county to go ahead and say, let's get a little bit more serious about our seniors. All right, you go to the next slide. Due to the fact that elderly and disabled citizens are considered a protected class of people under Texas law, any crimes against them may be enhanced to a more severe penalty. Take it like a Class C. Any Class C, which is would be considered a traffic ticket, if you want to say. A Class C is considered being pulled over by the police and they issue a traffic ticket. So any Class C, if your age is over 65 or 65 and older, or you have a disability that is 18 and between the age of 18 and 64, then the crime automatically enhances. And from a Class C, it goes to a Class A misdemeanor. So it jumps up 2 terms when it comes to a Class C, and any Class B or Class A misdemeanor, it jumps up to a felony class. And those when it jumps up to a Class A misdemeanor, it is punishable to 1 year in jail and up to a $4,000 fine. And so I'm trying to rush through. Go ahead to the next slide. I know you guys are hungry. The Elder Abuse Unit will work to identify those individuals who prey on elders and seek prosecution for those perpetrators. The Elder Abuse Unit investigators will play a pivotal role in implementation of this unit, working collaboratively with the boarding home detail, the Senior Justice Center, the Adult Protective Services, and other county entities. The Elder Abuse Unit will investigate all APS and SANJAC referrals within our jurisdiction for incidents and abuse occurring at boarding home facilities and cases of abuse involving the elderly population in anywhere, in your private residence or your place of business or anywhere. Next slide. So we're a two-partner unit. So my partner is Deputy Miguel Salinas. The Crime Against Elderly Unit will oversee all criminal investigations. So all I do is investigate all criminal investigations. So if somebody comes up and tries to take your money or assaults you or neglect you or anything or any senior, then they will fall to our division, and my partner and I will investigate it on the criminal side. So we don't do anything civilly. We investigate nothing but criminal cases when it comes to our elder and disabled person. And below, I'll give you that information to pop up later. And so the two deputy unit will be responsible for investigating all crimes against adults 65 years of age and older, and dependent adults 18 to 64 years of age who are physically, developmentally, and cognitively disabled. Okay, these are the types of abuse. Types of abuse are physical abuse, abandonment, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect and financial exploitation, which is one of the most popular ones, is the financial exploitation. And I won't go through this right here, but it's going to break down on the next slide each one and what those represent. So the next slide is physical abuse. Physical abuse is a physical force resulting in physical injury, pain, or impairment of a vulnerable elder. Assaults include shoving, punching, hitting, pinching, and other forms of physical assault. Can be very serious with elderly and disabled, as they may have osteoporosis and other medical conditions. Any physical injuries can take longer to heal and may lead to complications. Injuries may be easily seen or hidden. Emotional abuse is the infliction of pain or distress via verbal or nonverbal means. Many senior citizens are vulnerable to emotional abuse because of their health conditions or lack of access to their families, members, and loved ones. The categories include denying an elderly person the ability to see or visit family or loved ones, verbal threats of harm, degradation, visual threats and gestures, false telling an elderly person that their family members have been harmed or killed. Sexual abuse. This is a form of abuse that include unwanted touching and sexual assault, such as rape. This type of abuse can leave victims with transmittable diseases, physical injuries, and emotional trauma. And if I'm going too fast, just let me know. Financial exploitation is one of the biggest that we see, is one of the biggest crimes in the state of Texas and also in the Harris County jurisdiction. And financial exploitation is illegal or improper use of vulnerable elderly persons' property, funds, or assets. There are numerous financial scams targeted at elderly individuals, which involve threats towards the elderly or their family to elicit the elderly person to send money. A con man will run elaborate schemes to take over home deeds, real estate property, and financial accounts. We're dealing with cases, multiple cases right now, where people have illegally tamed these people's property, and they get to our seniors and they convince them to sign over their deeds for $1. And these homes are maybe $500,000 homes, and we were successful of getting some of these properties back, but we're still fighting some of those deeds, and we were able to get some of these guys prosecuted as well. Next slide. Financial exploitation. Many seniors live on fixed incomes, and most of the cases we deal with, a lot of our seniors aren't wealthy. They live on, like I say, fixed incomes. So they may receive Medicare, Social Security benefits, which enables them to pay for medicines and care. Taking advantage of a senior citizen to misuse their benefit is a crime. Such actions include stealing medication from elderly people to sell for profit, depriving our elderly person of their benefit checks, cashing or depositing a senior citizen's benefit check into another account. That is one of the biggest things. People take these, our seniors' checks, and they'll take them and deposit them into their own bank accounts and tell the bank investigators that they receive those money because of a loan or some type of good gesture from the elderly person. So neglect is a refusal or failure of those responsible to provide life necessities of a vulnerable, elderly, or disabled person. While many forms of abuse are overt attacks, neglect is the opposite. These acts can involve failure to provide basics such as food and water. They can also mean the lack of hygiene or failure to provide basic living conditions. This can mean leaving an elderly person in hot weather or failing to provide warmth in the cold temperature. Neglect can also mean leaving someone alone for extended periods of time and allowing bed sores and isolation to occur. Abandonment. Abandonment is the desertion of a vulnerable elder or disabled person who assumed responsibility for that elderly or disabled person. So it's basically saying abandonment is you give somebody permission to take over you for us, like the power of attorneys, or even more, this applies to more like caretakers who are signed up and sign contracts to take care of our loved ones, and you go and find out that they have left your loved ones in the house for 8 hours, not attending to them, and so that is a crime. They signed a contract to take care of your loved ones or take care of you, and they leave you for a long period of time, and without food, without water, without the basic necessities to survive. Medical abuse. Medical abuse can involve over-medicating a senior to make them more compliant. It can also mean withholding medical attention or medicine. And we're almost done. See, and we're almost at the end. Crimes against the elderly and disabled unit partners are the Harris County Sheriff's Office. It's the Harris County District Attorney's Office, Harris County Attorney's Office, the Senior Justice Assessment Center, and Adult Protective Services. We won't read through all this. The Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, the Adult Protective Services investigates abuse, neglect, exploitation for elders who are elderly or have disabilities or who live in the community. An adult who have disability who is the age of 65 years or older that is in the state of abuse, neglect, exploitation may be eligible to receive adult protective services. Next slide. In Texas, the law requires, and this is important, the law requires that people who suspect that elder abuse is occurring must report it. It is against the law for you not to report elder abuse. So if you know somebody that has been neglected, could be treated a little better, or you have concerns about their well-being, by law, you must report it. And how do you report it? Once elder abuse has been reported, local law enforcement may conduct an investigation or notify Adult Protective Services, and notify Adult Protective Services. Or you can also call Adult Protective Services without calling law enforcement. You could call them, and here's their number, is 1-800-877-5300. And that bottom number is just the number of where you could call to find out if there's already an active case against one of our vulnerable citizens. The Senior Justice Assessment Center, which is called SANJAC. You go to the next one. The eligibility requirements for them are 65 years or older, a Harris County resident, a victim of a crime or abuse or financial exploitation. These people are basically your advocate. These people will be assigned to you, assign you an advocate to deal with your situation. What they do is they build up a caseload, and we basically work with them to figure out if there a criminal element involved with our elderly citizens who are 65 years and older. And they do a variety of services. They forensic examination, capacity assessments, the geriatrics, physical exams, psychosocial assessments, medical records review, multidisciplinary team meetings, case coordinations, and referrals to social services. Crimes Against Elderly Persons Unit, where our offices are located at the Northwest Assistance Ministries, which is considered the NAM building. We're at 15,555 Kirkendall Road, Suite 154. That is our telephone number. Again, you can either email the CERT division, or you can email us directly at Crimes Against Elderly and Disabled Unit at sheriff.hctx.net. And this is our cell phone, our office numbers here, Deputy Salinas and I, office number, direct contact, and also our email address if you want to take a picture of that, if you want to try to report it. And our supervisor is Sergeant Brian Chudy, and that is his office number, where he can be reached to report any type of, or to catch up on an investigation when it comes to us. But we would ask that if you know someone who's experienced or yourself going through some type of elder abuse, we ask that you reach out to your local law enforcement, let the deputies come out, take the report. If you feel like the abuse has happened in the past, you can contact APS. Like I say, financial exploitation is one of the biggest ones. You can contact APS, start up a case. APS will forward it over to our office, and we'll investigate it and reach out to you guys. And so whichever way you want to try to get this thing started, it always ends with us, and it comes and lands on our desk. And that's going to be the end of our presentation. Like I said, if you know that elder abuse is happening, it's against the law for you to just stay quiet. We have a lot of people out here who are trying to take advantage of our elderly. And like I say, financial exploitation is probably one of the biggest crime. And so we investigate all day long of trying to get our senior citizens their money back. Anybody got any other questions? You ready to eat? All right, we want to thank you for your time. Like I say, thank you for your time, and we appreciate you guys.